You know why we're turning music on? We're turning music on because this is a party. Thank you guys all so very much for joining me. I don't know how many people are actually on currently live, but for those of you who might be, I know that we have Mr. James Fernandez in the control room, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. I am broadcasting remotely from the state of Michigan.
You are broadcasting remotely from the state of Michigan, which is the control room of our particular party.
Absolutely.
Can you hear the music, James?
We can hear the music okay. It sounds like it's fighting with your voice once in a while, so it breaks up a little bit.
Okay, but when I'm quiet, it's nice to hear in the background, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, now it says that there are 0 viewers at the moment, but that might also be because it just now turned 5 o'clock and we went live. So
let me see. I'm gonna try to view it.
We're gonna see if Yuri can watch this and all the fun that we're having.
Make sure to turn your speaker down, Yuri, so we don't hear the echo.
What'd you say, James?
Just make sure he turns down the audio so we don't hear the echo of our broadcast through his other computer.
That is a brilliant suggestion. I think he just did that.
I see you guys.
And we are on. And I was just going to say the beautiful tunes that we are listening to is the Petrovich Blasting Company. And if you want more information about them, you can just click over on the little yellow tag to get their website and hear more of their music because they are delightful.
We love them.
We do them.
And they said we could play their music during.
Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of their music. And I reached out to them and I said that I had written this book, Zartana, and that I thought that the essence and the quality of the sound of the music that they play would really sort of fuel the party that we're having. And they said I could have permission to play their music, which is delightful.
So thanks, Petrovich Blasting Company.
Thanks, Petrovich Blasting Company. We appreciate you. So anyway, welcome everybody who's here. I am launching the campaign today for a book that I wrote called Zartana. And it's a fully illustrated, interactive book about a traveling Romani girl. And it takes place over the course of a year. And during her travels, you know, it goes through the seasons and she travels to different parts of Europe that she lives in about 100 years ago. And what makes it really exciting is the interactivity element of the book means you can pull out the recipes that she's actually cooking or the herb cards to explain the flora that she's seeing around her. There's also maps that she pulls out and other exciting things like tarot cards and instructions on the things that she does in her daily life. And I am actually over the moon about all of the art and illustration that fills the pages of the book because I was honored to work with a variety of artists from around the world to be able to actually put this together. So there's artists in the UK, there's an artist in Italy, there's several people in the United States, including Maisie, who now lives in the US, but she's from Singapore, and she did all the handwriting, the calligraphy, to be the actual handwriting for Zartana to be the journal entries in the book. So this campaign that I am running is to actually just pay for the printing costs of the book. And that's what we are going to be doing. And thanks to those of you that have already contributed today, I can't thank you enough. And to those of you who are excited about this and want to contribute, you'll notice right there on the bottom of the screen, it's a quick link that'll get you to my IndieGoGo campaign. igg.me/@/Zartana. But you can also just go to indiegogo.com and look up Zartana and you'll be able to find it there. But if you guys have any questions or if you want to talk to me about this, I would be more than happy to. That's what this party is for.
And if you want to if you wanted to send her, I don't know exactly how the Q&A works on this. I think you can pop in, but if not, I'm in Tara's Twitter account right here. I totally busted into her Twitter account. So if you tweet anything at Tara Platt, I will, like Coins of MacGuffin, for example.
Yeah, Coins of MacGuffin, how are you?
Ran away crying for a second, but hopefully you're back.
Don't run away crying. We're having too much fun at this party. Don't run away crying.
Exactly.
But if anyone does have any questions, go ahead and tweet me at Tara Platt, and we will be able to see what you might have to say about that. And let's chat a little bit about the book.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I keep dancing. I can't.
I know.
I love
this music is so fun.
As long as it doesn't fight with your voice.
So this one's getting into a little bit of a scuff with your voice, but we can still hear you good.
Okay. Should we turn it down just a little?
Sure,
just a little bit, just a skosh.
As much as I love, maybe just a skosh.
Now, since we are not Romani, although we really respect the culture, we are doing our best to wear fun attire that is just sort of colorful and bright, because I thought that would be exciting. And then Yuri decided that he thought that a peasant blouse and a vest would be more fitting for this, which I think is kind of adorable. So.
Well, there you go.
We just got our first question in the Q&A, if you guys would like to answer it.
Yes. Oh, there it is.
What inspired you to write the book?
I am so glad you asked what inspired me to write the book. Thank you. Hi, Megan. So what inspired me to write the book is actually kind of a funny story. When Yuri and I drive in the car and we go on road trips or when we're traveling, I love storytelling. And I especially love it when other people tell me stories. I like being the recipient of a really good story. But I realized we had started telling each other this story. We would sort of go back and we would talk about this character, Zartana, and how she was traveling in her Vardo, and we would sort of come up with things that she would do. And I realized pretty quickly that the thing that was most exciting to me was not so much the adventures that she was going on, because
I usually had her attacked by bandits.
Yeah, there was always bandits, right? And
or
fighting.
They were fighting trolls, or something like that. And,
yeah.
And that didn't go over so well.
And although I liked it, I would always go back and be like, yeah, but what was she wearing? And what does she have inside of her Vardo? Well, how does she get this food anyway? Is she hunting? And I would ask Yuri all these questions, and he was like, I'm not sure. And so we would start to play out, okay, if it's winter, what do you think she's wearing? It's 100 years ago. She's traveling through Europe. She's a Romani, so she probably has some furs that she's gotten because she's gone hunting for animals, and she's maybe trapped them or gotten them and used the meat to cook and eat and feed herself. But then she turns the furs into her own stoles and covers things inside her Vardo with it. By the way, a Vardo is basically the name for the traveling caravan. That's just the term, Vardo. And so because I was so interested and engaged in the idea of what that life looks like and what that world looks like, I started to get really excited and steering us away from all of the bandits and the fighting and the conflicts that Yuri kept trying to steer us towards. And I realized pretty quickly that it's because I love world building so much. I love that idea of being in a place that is not familiar to you, that you have to learn about, that engages your curiosity and your imagination and makes you really go, how do they live? How do they do that? And that to me was the most exciting part. And so after we went back and forth a few times, I quickly was like, you know what? You want to make her this huge, bad-ass fighting.
I'll write that later.
Which is a great story, but that wasn't the story I wanted to tell. And so then I took Zartana and her Vardo and her traveling animals, Boo and Fontaine and Wolf, and I wrote out the journal entries that she might have written. So,
and there's an illustration of the Vardo. If you go to the page, she's describing it. But if you want to see it, you can go to the IndieGoGo page. One of the illustrations from the book is there. There's a question.
Yes. Thank you for your question.
From Christina Snyder.
Hi, Christina.
She says, will this be a series of books or a standalone?
Well, that's a really good question. Because of the nature of the book, and it is really chronicling a year in the life of her adventures, it could be a serial. It could continue. And part of that would depend on, obviously, if there is a lot of interest, if other people like this type of story. It also happens to be a bit of a mystery, because I understand that to be a good storyteller, there should be some conflict. It's not just about describing what a character is wearing or eating to make an entire story. That's not really the slice of life that people get the most out of. And so as I started to write that, I realized that I love mysteries. I love questions. And when I started to ask that question of myself, why is she traveling? Why is she alone? Because I didn't have her traveling with anyone else. And I realized that there was a little bit of a mystery to why she was doing that. So over the course of her journey during the year, in the journal that you have found, you will see her trying to search for her family and follow clues as to where they may have gone. But I'm not going to tell you whether or not she finds them at the end, but the story could definitely continue if people were interested in Zartana and interested in seeing either where she winds up or what she chooses to do. So yeah, thank you. It could continue.
I just want a sequel because I loved some of your artists, and I would love to see more of what they've done.
Yeah, I really lucked out. I had amazing artists. And one of the ways that I found the artists, because people have been asking me as I've been telling them about this project, One of the ways that I found the artists is there are a number of sites for illustrators where, much like a casting site for an actor, where people that need actors post that they need them, actors will go there and find the castings. There are sites for illustrators, and even though that was something I was not familiar with, a couple friends of mine recommended, because they're more in illustration and art, they recommended a few websites, and so I went there and I posted a description of what I was hoping to do with my book, and how I wanted it to be this fully interactive, sort of like, when I was growing up, I read a book called Griffin and Sabine, and this book is totally different from Griffin and Sabine, but what I loved about Griffin and Sabine was in Griffin and Sabine, you would open it and there would be all these envelopes that you would open and then pull the letters out and actually feel like you were sort of peeking into their lives. And I love that element. And so I really wanted it to come off the page. And I know in more recent times, there's been books like Wizardology and Dragonology, where there might be a fold-out page to be a description about the type of dragon or magic spells or things like that, and I like that. But I wanted this to feel more like you had actually found a girl's journal and the things that she had stuffed inside of it. And so I went on this Illustrator site, and I posted, this is my hope. I have written this journal style entry book, and I need artists to fill it out because I need it to look like it's not only her art. It might be art that was handed down from a grandmother when she wrote out the recipe, or it might be art that was handed down from an aunt when she wrote out the herb cards, or she may have gotten or gifted something and put it into her book by somebody else. And yet I also wanted there to be illustrations that she had done. And so I specifically found different artists to do different elements so that it has a very rich, full world when you're experiencing turning the pages and actually interacting with the elements that are inside of it. So thank you so much for that question. I hope that answered it a little bit.
Right, and you found the Q&A tab, which is good, because there was a question about being able to ask questions and answers on the broadcast on the site rather than just Twitter. I will be here in Twitter.
But Yuri will be on Twitter.
Because for example, Laura D.
Yes.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, thank you so much. All the beautiful art. Yes, all the beautiful art that was drawing people into the campaign launch today. Laura was very, very sweet to make for me, and I completely appreciate it. So thank you. And then she went and she donated, and which was super extra sweet. So thank you. Yes.
She has a question.
Yes. What is your question?
And she sent it with a lovely GIF of Christoph Waltz from Inglourious Basterds.
Yes.
So tell us about the recipes, because food.
Yes. Okay. So the recipes. Because I don't cook and I don't know how to cook, I make a mean bowl of cereal and I apologize for my toast. I did not know where to start. So what I started to do was I started to ask myself, what would a girl traveling alone in the woods through Europe 100 years ago be able to cook or eat? What are the types of foods she might be able to find? Things like mushrooms or carrots, things that she could either grow that she would have on her Vardo on the outside, herbs, things like that, or things she would be able to find on her journeys like mushrooms. And then I was like, well, she probably also needs to get some sort of protein, some sort of meat, because this is long before the age of vegetarianism. And so I was like, well, she could get, poultry, she could hunt, she could fish, she could collect seaweed if she goes to the beach, things like that. And by making those choices of the areas and locations she might be and the things she might come across, I started to come up with a list of edible things that she could potentially use. And then from that, and also I did a lot of research on the Romani people, because I realized that this whole idea had started sort of as a fun, frivolous way for me to just describe this exotic world that I was obsessed with in color and music and lights, and not want to just do a false interpretation of that, but I don't know anything about that. And when I started writing it, I was writing about a gypsy girl. And then during my research, I found out that the term gypsy is actually not considered to be a nice term, and the Romani people don't call themselves gypsies. It's only a term that's ever referred to towards them. And so in that research, I realized I wanted to use this as an opportunity, even though I'm certainly not an expert on Romani culture or the Romani people, even though I do admire them a lot in the research that I did and ended up learning about them, I wanted to be able to respect them and their culture, because I think that this idea of this wandering, talented craft gypsy, not gypsy term, but like artisan, was a really exciting and thrilling world to be in. And so I dived in, and then I was able to do the research and realize that it's the Romani people. That was a little bit of a side. But I did all this research on all the types of foods that she might come across, and during my research on the Romani people, I found the types of foods that they often eat, like goulash. That's a very Hungarian dish, because the Romani people span through Europe, and there's a Hungarian element and a Romanian element, and there's various people through Europe that are considered the Romani. And I just started doing research on the types of foods they eat. And then from the research, I started finding a bunch of different recipes, and I started cobbling together and asked my personal chef how we might be able to make it work and make the recipes come alive and be exotic but interesting.
I have a comment and a question that I see in the Q&A box.
Comments and questions.
And
Thank you guys so much.
And one question for James. James, do you need to, because I have somebody asking, do you need to add something to do the Q&A once you're in the Hangout? Do you add something from the toolbox? Or is it...
The Q&A should be available. There should be a green button when you're watching it in the upper right corner. It'll look like a 9. And when you click on there, you'll be able to go between the Showcase tab and the Q&A tab.
Okay.
Well, hopefully that will help.
Hopefully that will answer
Yes.
it.
And if you
I'll actually double check it right now just to make sure that's the case. But I'm pretty sure that's where it is.
Okay, great.
Great.
Yes, what is the
The comment is, you are Zartana. I think you should play her in the film Zartana.
That is a delightful idea.
Which leads right into this question here.
Oh, yes.
So do you see this becoming a game, TV, series, movie? Is this the end game, or just wanting to focus on it as a book?
Oh, you know.
Hashtag synergy.
Hashtag creator. You know, I'm totally open to it becoming something more, because I really love Zartana and the world that I have built for her and the characters that I've built around her. So I could see it expanding, much like we were talking about earlier. I potentially could continue this book into a second book, you know, a sequel, sort of. Although there is something that I love about the nature of the type of media being the nature of the type of media it is. I like this particular type of interaction in book form, because I think books are to be cherished. I love books, and I wish everybody else was as passionate about books as I am, because books are my friends. I grew up without a television, and I was a voracious reader, and it was a chance for me to travel and explore and meet characters and go on adventures that might not have been as possible in my daily life, but filled out my world and taught me to use my imagination and taught me to be creative, which are both facets of me as a human being and my career now. And so because of that, I do like creation, so I'm totally open to the idea of continuing to play in Zartana's world, but I do love Zartana as a book, because that idea that you open the book, and once you've opened the book, you're actually physically interacting with it and interacting with her through time, is a very exciting element to me. So thank you for that question.
And then I think some more questions came in. What was your biggest aha moment when writing the book?
My biggest aha moment? Oh my goodness, that is a tricky question. You know, I don't know that I had one particular aha moment. I feel like the entire book. Are we dancing now?
I'm always dancing.
Petrovich Blessing Company.
You can find them on Spotify too, if you want to sample their music before you go and throw money at them.
But you should go throw money at them. They're pretty genius. But you should also throw money at Zartana, because she's pretty genius too.
Right.
Whoa, snap.
You just hand them the money gently. Do not actually throw it at them. Just a nice thing.
Make it rain.
No.
There you go.
But to answer your question, my aha moments were many. I think the first aha moment I had was in just getting responses once I had written it, because so much of me writing it was me on the internet doing research and tracking down things like recipes and then tweaking them and trying to figure out what might be more accurate and what would be available at the time, and doing the research and talking to people who know how to sew, because I don't know how to sew, and there's actually a pattern for making a skirt that Zartana might wear inside the book. And so things like that were very technical and very detail-oriented, but I enjoyed doing it because I love learning. I'm a big old nerd. Learning new things makes me extremely happy. And so during the book writing process, I wasn't having as many aha moments, even though it was constant learning, as I had when I actually posted that I was looking for artists and illustrators, and I was inundated with posts. And I know that, you know, people want to work, people want jobs, and I paid all my artists. All of my artists have been paid. And so I know, you know, people want jobs, so people, you know, send their stuff. But the fact that so many people got so excited about the idea and, you know, wanted to link me to things that they had done that would be similar in tone or what they thought might work for something, and the fact that they had ideas was really thrilling, because I think when you create something, and I think when you have an idea and it's just in your own little head, and then you're trying to verbalize it and express it in such a way that you can get it out of you into the world so that other people can see it, share it, and experience it on some level of what your idea was. To have somebody else respond to that is such a thrill and such an honor. And I mean, it's sort of like, not to make this about voiceover work or acting, but we do a lot of voiceover work and we travel to a lot of conventions. And when somebody comes up and they like something we've done, or better yet, they like something like Shelf Life, which was a web series we created and did, that they were touched enough by something we created that we brought into the world, that we shared with them, it's such a flattering experience. I mean, I don't think, as a creator, I don't think there's anything that's like,
yeah, because we don't create in a vacuum. I mean, we don't create just so that we can look at something.
No.
Clearly, when we create, it's so that we can also, you know, tell stories to other people.
Yeah.
We're storytellers at heart.
yeah.
In fact, there's another question in the Q&A box that says, what are differences between writing this book and writing your voiceover book?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. So, well, one is fiction and one is nonfiction. So obviously, truth versus imagination is a huge part. When I wrote the voiceover book with Yuri, it was about sort of, I kind of did an outline pre-writing it together, and I sort of jotted down all the things that I thought people needed to know or would be happy to know or have been asking us information-wise, and then that is what fleshed out what I wanted to put in the book. But for ZARTANA, because it was all just about what kind of an adventure is she on, where might she be going, what might she be doing, literally, when I would sit down to write, I was just like, what do I think she does? I think she's going to cook something. What would she cook? And then that's where the ideas came from. It was a more fill in the blank as I go. And as I adventured and learned things and did research and discovered stuff, it added to the story and changed the story. And it helped me figure out what my through line for the story would be, and sort of what the shape of her year looks like. Unlike voiceover voice actor, which of course had to be constructed so that there's chapters that have certain topics and things like that, but it was much more fact-based and what do people constantly ask us, what do I think would be helpful for people to know, what sort of clumps together as an idea, where should we start when we start talking about it, and that became the way that I did that book as opposed to ZARTANA, which became a lot more free-form, and then the information I was receiving sort of added to that.
Kenneth on Twitter
Yes.
wants to know if you can answer the question, when did you start developing ZARTANA?
I started developing ZARTANA almost exactly a year ago. We were playing back and forth with the storytelling of this character, ZARTANA, during late summer last year, and actually early summer last year. So through the summer, I started coming up with ideas about her and realized I really wanted to write it down. So come August, I started writing it. I finished writing it the end of September, and it got my artists and illustrators because I had all of my illustrations from Peter, my illustrator from the UK, by the end of last year. And then the other illustrations spread out a little bit from Blake, who was doing illustrations in Georgia, and Francesca, who's doing illustrations in Italy. And then, of course, once we got the illustrations, then Maisie, who's doing all the calligraphy of actually ZARTANA's handwriting of the book, couldn't do her calligraphy until we knew what the images were and we could start placing them. So she knew what the sizes of the pages were going to be in terms of where an image might be, so she would write around it. So it was a little bit of trying to be creative with doing that. But I guess the whole thing started a little over a year ago.
Apparently, for some people, the link to the IndieGoGo campaign that we're showing here is not working.
Oh no!
So,
but you can click on the side. The link should be working on the side if you go under, what is that tab called?
Showcase.
Wait, what did you say?
It's the showcase. It looks like the Price is Right name tags.
Yes, the Price is Right name tag showcase. If you go to the showcase, you should be able to click on it so that you should be able to see.
And I'm hopping into Tara's Twitter to tweet a link that I do know works. So
and I just clicked on the showcase link. It does take you directly to the page, and we're currently at $1,740.
What? You guys!
It jumped up
22%.
So much. We're 20% funded. That's amazing. And this is the first 24 hours. And I have to thank everybody who has
22% funded.
22. That's right.
Holy cow! Thank you. I have to let you all know I am so appreciative of you supporting me and you supporting this idea and you supporting art and creativity. That what I'm going to be doing. Because I like presents and I like giveaways. So what I'm going to do is everybody who contributes today to my campaign through, I was going to do it till 6 o'clock when this ends, but I might just do it through the whole first day of my campaign. I'm going to send you a PDF of the map of Europe that Francesca drew. That's actually one of the removable inserts inside the book. It's the map that Zartana follows as she travels. And I will email that to all of you that have contributed today as an extra PDF that you could use as a background for your computer screen, or you could print it out and, I don't know, gift it to a kid for their adventure box, or, you know, I don't know what, maybe use it for role-playing D&D for a map or something, because it's really beautiful art, just as like a little gifty. And one lucky person from this whole first days of contribution, I'm gonna put their names in a hat and I'm gonna draw, and I'm gonna send one person an extra or a copy of the book.
Can I be the lucky person?
Have you donated to the campaign?
That's
Can I be the lucky person?
So those are a couple of gifts and giveaways, just because I want you to know how appreciative I am.
A couple of comments.
Yes.
Danica's in there. Hi, Danica,
Hi,
all the way
Danica.
halfway across the world.
Yes,
She's
it
watching.
must be late or early for you. I'm not sure how that
She's
works.
happy that she could join.
Thank you.
And having so much fun listening. I hope they'll be able to donate. We're getting people. One person wants to know where you got the name Zartana from.
I don't actually know where I got the name Zartana. It just came out of my mouth.
Things up.
Yeah, things just come out of my mouth sometimes.
She's the queen of make-em-ups.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's some questions that are coming into the Q&A.
Oh, yes. What was involved in the process of working with the artists? Oh, well, what I did was I sent all the artists, basically I broke down the book into the seasons, and there's several entries per season, and for each entry, I had an idea in my head of what I wanted the inserts to be, what I wanted the images to be, and then I broke down who I wanted to draw them, because I wanted, you know, all the recipe cards to be as if they'd been handed down from a grandmother, so I wanted them to be a certain style. So I had one of my, Francesca, I had her do that. Then I had her also do the herb cards, because I wanted that to be from an aunt, but they look slightly different. Then I wanted Peter to do all of the drawings inside that Zartana did, that she spent a lot of time with it. Maybe she had some, you know, colored inks to actually draw. And so like the front cover Vardo picture that she might have like drawn a picture of her own Vardo, that was all done by Peter. And then I had Blake do all the sketches that are a little bit more like, she was in a bit of a hurry, but she wanted to jot something down. And then I peppered it through with a couple other things that all three of my artists did. Like Francesca did one that was a Christmas story that was given to her by a gentleman that she ran into, that he had written out the Christmas story and then drawn a picture on the page. And so all of the artists had the book, like the journal entry for the book. They had what types of pieces of art I wanted for each page. They also had who was doing which items, so that it was broken down. And then I just went back and forth via email, because everybody was all around the world. I never met anyone face to face, which is kind of a crazy way to work. But yeah, I just worked that way, and I was extremely pleased with the results that I got. So thank you for that.
Let's see what else we've got. So we've got some in there.
And was there anything? I wrote lots of notes I was going to talk about, you guys, but
I also want to express a blatant love of all her artists. Peter is my favorite. Sorry, other artists.
Okay, you know what it is. I'm going to read you my artists' bios, so you can learn a little bit more about my artists. You're going to understand during Peter's bio why Yuri is obsessed with him. Peter Johnson, illustrator, is an artist living in the UK. He got into art when he was a little kid, crazy about Spider-Man and Avengers, which used to be released as a weekly black and white comic strip. He got the urge to make his own comics and started drawing. Peter then studied art in Wales, got a degree in illustration and printmaking. He's gone on to work in a range of styles and designs, from the softer wilderness images from Zartana to his recent work on steampunk pirates and gear for iron grip marauders, illustrating Cthulhu, cybernetic apes, SS Knights, and Wendigos, sci-fi Asian armies, and occult magic books for heavy
Canada. If you're from Canada, you'll know what a Wendigo
is. So basically, Yuri needs to marry Peter. It's fine. But so that was my artist, Peter. Francesca is an illustrator. Is one of my illustrators. She's an Italian traditional artist who considers herself lucky to be born in such an inspirational country. She's surrounded by beautiful historical buildings and wonderful nature. She began seriously studying art and illustration at 25, and before that, she was a student of music. She graduated from Scuola Internazionale Comics. Sorry, Italian?
Scuola
Internazionale Comics.
Internazionale Comics. I love how it's Scuola Internazionale and then it just says comics.
With full marks and honors in illustration in 2013. Francesca is an experienced freelance artist with solid professional background working on internationally published book covers, CD covers, video games, RPGs, maps, card games, concept art, and children's illustrations. You can find her work in the new novel, Night of Azlith, In Fact by Art, Volumes 2 and 3, as well as Cards and Quests RPG. All of her illustrations are painted with traditional media, oil, acrylic, watercolor, or ink. Blake Bradley, who also did illustrations, is a professional freelance artist since 2011 based out of Savannah, Georgia. He describes his work as somewhat between expressionistic and realism and works towards creating a juxtaposition of beautiful yet grotesque, a strange feeling of being uncomfortable but intrigued to look closer. And Maisie Yang, who did all of the calligraphy, the handwriting of Zartana to bring it to life off the page, is a concept artist, illustrator, and designer. Are you dancing?
I'm always dancing.
Is a concept artist, illustrator, and designer.
Control.
I know. It's Petrovich Blasting Company. Designer who's passionate about creating compelling visual stories that connects with audiences, games, film, and animation. Maisie grew up on the city island state of Singapore, where she spends most of her free time as a child making things, drawing, and painting, and she discovered Photoshop. She began to play with graphic design and photo manipulation. At 18, she moved to Columbus, Ohio to attend Columbus College of Art and Design and majored in illustration. After graduation, she moved to California and attended the Los Angeles Academy of Figurative Art, LAAFA. She believes that storytelling is a core human experience and is a lifelong goal of hers to continue infusing modern media with captivating narratives in visual form.
Tara, you're 24% funded.
Yay! You guys are amazing. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Yeah, I really am so passionate about this book and the project, and the art is just beautiful, and I do think it'll be a charming book that not only can be enjoyed alone, just enjoying the book itself, but can be enjoyed with other people. You can get together and do the actual recipes. You could cook the things together. You could do the instruction. You could work through the instructions of how to make a bow and arrow, or how to fish with a spear, things like that, or map by the stars, how to map by the stars.
Things a parent could do with a son or a daughter reading the book.
Exactly.
And,
I mean,
or
probably not
friends
too
friends
small
could
of a
do.
child, but you know, like 10 or above, probably.
I don't know. I was making bows and arrows when I was very small.
Yeah, but you also threw rocks at people. So. Oh, we have more questions.
We have a lot of questions in there and some questions in here.
Okay.
Maybe we could condense some of them because some of them are similar.
Okay, let's condense.
Talk about maybe your influences or inspiration in working on the book. And David from Coins and MacGuffin wants to know if the book follows the hero's quest, or does it follow its own style?
Its own style. Tara follows no one.
That's right. So her influences and inspirations are Tara.
Yeah, I think my influence and inspiration is just my wild imagination, and me wanting a book that did what I want, because I don't really want a book about politics and sex. Well, no, what I mean is, like, there's so many books out there that are like Game of Thrones, or
It's all sex violence.
It's all sex, violence, and politics, and I love the world that it's set in, but I get tired of all the machinations of. That's why I didn't put any other people in my book. I only have Zartana and animals.
Well, somebody wants
No,
to
I
know,
do have other people in my book.
Somebody wants
I do
to
have
know,
her interact with other people. It's
somebody
not just
wants to know if you're going to develop a male counterpart, like, you know, maybe
Ooh.
modeled after.
Oh, a male
somebody
counterpart? A male
wearing
counterpart?
a vest and a peasant blouse.
Is that...
Don't have to keep begging me. I'll be the model.
What'd you say?
I said you don't have to keep begging me, guys. I'll be the model for the male comic.
Thank you.
Right, and a character modeled after James Fernandez.
You know, it's possible. Like I said earlier when we talked about where the story could go or what might happen, I'm completely open to more adventures with her and other interactions with other people. She does interact with a few people in the book. It's not just her by herself the whole time. But I guess I just was trying to say, as a comparison, this is more of the kind of book I wanted to get lost in as a kid. And you know, I think there's a lot of merit and a lot of worth in those other types of books. And I read a lot of those other types of books too. It's just for me, sometimes the fun and the adventure is just going into that world. Like, you know the movie, what's the one with all the blue, the alien, Avatar. Avatar. So,
I was gonna say something totally different.
Oh, what movie were you gonna say?
No, you go right ahead.
So the movie Avatar, I was okay with the movie Avatar, and it was beautiful to look at, but I want to go on the, like, Avatar nature narrated by Attenborough movie, because I loved the world so much. I want to go explore that environment in a way that isn't about a story where it's just like, oh, these people are going to fight these other people.
Right, you just don't like fighting is what you're saying.
Hey, just because I'm not a fan of conflict doesn't mean that my story can't be interesting and mysterious.
So this is an interesting question that Laura asked. How does one get the guts to release something near and dear to your heart? How do you know when it's done and ready for the world?
Oh, I don't know if I have the guts. I don't know. You know, I think it just was a matter of, for me, I don't know. My whole life, I guess I've always just done things. I'm a doer. I make things, and then I create and I make, and then I put them out there in the world. And most of the time, you know, a few people appreciate it or like it or think it's interesting, and I am very excited that those people do, but I don't tend to necessarily hit on big fads or trends or things like that. So in a way, like, I don't make viral videos. I make things that are meaningful to me that I put out into the world and may affect 100 people. But at the end of the day, I have to look at it as I'm being true to myself, and I'm putting the whole of me into something, and I'm putting it out there into the world. And if one other person sees that and goes, oh my gosh, that's the story I've always wanted to read, or that's the idea I've always thought of, or wow, if you can do it, so can I, then I somehow feel like it's all worth it. Because I think every one of us is unique and creative and special and has the ability to take action. Oh dear, I will turn that off. Sorry guys, I left my ringer on.
Could have been important.
Has the ability to take action on anything that we find interesting. And you may find golfing interesting, while someone else finds trains interesting. And there's a place for each of those things. And what's really fascinating is finding other people who are fascinated by the same thing you're fascinated. It's one of the reasons I think conventions have blown up in the last 20 years. You know, suddenly there were comic conventions. You know, San Diego Comic-Con has been going on for almost 30 years, and it used to only be a little small group of people, and now it's huge, and they happen once every weekend somewhere all over the world. And I think, and there's conventions for Legos, and there's conventions for pretty much you name it, there's a convention for it. And it's this idea that we are realizing that anyone can like anything, and someone else will also like it. There's fetishes for everything, basically. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean the idea that you just get so passionate, so impassioned about something that you want to share that experience with somebody. And so I don't know that it's necessarily that I'm gutsy or if I'm stupid because I'm putting it out there and then people may choose to dislike it. But I also think if you don't take risks, you don't get anywhere. And at the end of the day, when I die, and
hopefully not soon.
Well, hopefully not soon. But when I'm not here anymore, I hope that what I've left the world is play. And it's just very important to me that people feel safe to play and feel safe to be creative. And so the only way that I can do that is by doing it myself. I think our responsibility as humans is to teach through example, and the best way you can do that is by doing. And so I use the tools at the tools that I have, creativity and imagination, to play with excellence, and I try to always put excellence out into the world.
Well, I think you're putting out excellence to the world. You're 25% funded now.
Amounts of butt is being kicked right now.
Thanks, guys. I'm so excited, and I promise I will.
There's no crying and being awesome, young lady.
Oh. Sort of related to what you were just saying, you're afraid of criticism. when you're showing off something that's really, you know, personal to you.
Yeah, of course I'm afraid of criticism. I think you're not human if you're not afraid of criticism. I think, you know, we only put things out into the world that we think are ready to go out into the world, but at the same time, you can't please everybody. And honestly, I really think if somebody hates what you've done, that means you did a good job, because that means that they had a strong reaction to it. And I don't like everything that everybody else does. I don't like everybody else in the world. And that doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that my energy and my nature and their energy and their nature just don't mix, you know? And so, yeah, it sucks and it hurts. And, you know, mean comments on the internet always suck. And it makes you feel bad when people think you did a bad job, or, you know, don't say nice things about you or your work or your creative outlets or your ideas or the legacy you are leaving to the world. But at the end of the day, that's on them, that's not on you. And as long as you keep taking risks, taking chances, making mistakes, because making mistakes is how you get better. Making mistakes is how you learn. So nothing will ever be perfect. I almost would always rather put something out with a mistake in it than not put it out. And so I tend to, I'm not a perfectionist. I tend to think that being perfect, perfect is done. So to me, yes, I can go back and I can look at Voiceover Voice Actor, which was published 5 years ago, and I can find typos in it. And I can look at it and go, wow, why did I say that? Or I should really change that. But if I never put it out there, if I never published it, it would never be ready to go out into the world. Right. Because I would always find something that I had criticism with, or a correction for, or an error. I think errors should be celebrated. I think mistakes should be celebrated. I actually am kind of sad that we live in a world where people make mistakes and they are crucified for it. I wish they didn't make the mistakes, but you know, you hear things like the beautiful, beautiful actress who's the lead of Quantico. There's a new TV show.
Yeah.
She's like an Indian Bollywood actress. And a recent article went out talking about her and the fact that she had been some sort of Miss World India. Yeah. Well, I'm sure some poor intern that worked at ABC News was researching it, found a picture of Miss World India and posted it. Well, it wasn't the picture of the actress that they were actually talking about.
Priyanka Chopra.
Priyanka Chopra, thank you, Yuri. That they were talking about in the article. Now that sucks. They should have done due diligence. They should have found it. But we live in a world now where somebody lost their job over it and they're totally getting crucified, rather than people going, oh, that was a mistake. I'm human. I make mistakes. They're human. They make mistakes. Well, at least they tried. They apologized. They fixed it. They got on with it. We live in a world where mistakes are not really celebrated, and I think mistakes should be celebrated.
That's how you learn.
Because that's how you learn, and then you get better, and then your next project is better than your last project.
And as you've said before, and I forget exactly who said it first or where we heard it, but perfection is the enemy of done.
Yeah, perfection is the enemy of done.
If you get obsessed with perfection, you'll never finish. It'll never get out there in the world.
Yeah.
You can't get on to your next project.
And honestly, I think it's better to make a few mistakes, because it's the wabi-sabi of life. You know, we all have a little cracks in us, but that's what lets the light in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So more questions.
Yes. Should I be marking that I said these, or did I not? I haven't answered this yet. There's so many questions coming in.
I've been following. Don't worry. Don't worry. One is that I know you're so excited.
I'm so excited.
But one person said, can you please slow down a little bit?
Oh, am I talking too fast? I talk too fast.
Because you're so excited. It's extremely cute.
I get excited.
If you could make one phone call and get anyone to help work on your book, which artist or writer would you want to work with? That's a good one, right?
That's huge.
Dave's got all the good.
Oh, you have all the good questions. One artist or writer? I don't know. My artists were pretty amazing. I mean, there's so many amazing artists in the world.
Well, you know, you can save that question for when you have to do the sequel.
You've stumped me. I don't know.
You just broke $2,000.
Oh, you just broke $2,000?
$2,000?
Yep, you just broke 2,000. 2,038 with 34 backers.
You guys, seriously, thank you so much. You're gonna love the book. I hope. I love it. It's amazing.
They're gonna love
You're
it.
You're gonna love
it. You'll hear it from me. Somebody also said, would you do the any plans for a Zartana movie if given the chance?
Well, yes, but the likelihood is I probably wouldn't get to play her because I'm not actually a Romani.
Well, there you go. Let's see.
We're looking at questions.
Yeah,
we're just not staring deep into your
eye.
Here's
an interesting one from Karen Cheetah. How do you deal with the depression or sadness if people don't like criticism of your idea, if you feel that way? I'm so proud how you are publishing this book of yours and still going strong. I'm so afraid of criticism.
Oh, that's a great question. You know, it sucks, and I think the best way to get through depression, especially when you're dealing with criticism, is to admit that it hurts your feelings and just say, wow, that really, I felt that. Like, actually take it in and have the emotion. Because when you have the emotion, you can process the emotion, you can get through the emotion. But when you try to ignore it or you try to downplay it and say, oh, I don't feel hurt, or that didn't affect me, then by pushing it off, you are actually not allowing yourself to feel, and you can't process, which means you're not going to get past it, which means you're going to get stuck in it longer and harder and deeper. And then that's when you sort of go into one of those spirals and you feel really bad. I'm human. I mean, there are days that I'm like laying in bed crying and Yuri's like, come on. And I'm like, but I don't wanna, you know, I'm a human and my feelings get hurt, and it sucks when people don't like what you have done or what you're doing, or when you're trying and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. It's not a great feeling. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a matter of saying, my dream, my goal, my vision, my ultimate truth about myself. So what I was saying earlier about my ultimate goal of excellence in play is greater than the feeling of sadness or the shame or the negativity that I may feel when I get criticism or when I get negativity and I receive it. That drive for excellence in play and creativity and fun and imagination is greater. That need for me to put that out into the world is greater. So I can have my moment of, wow, this really sucks. I'm gonna go cry, and then I'll get over it, and then I'll be a big girl, and I'll pull my pants up, and I'll get on with it. And the next thing will be more honest to who I am, and will be more truthful to what I'm trying to say and put out there in the world. So I hope that answered it.
I see a question from Boris Kievsky.
Hi, Boris. How's New York? Thanks for tuning in.
He asks, you've succeeded in so many awesome creative careers. What's next?
Ah, shucks. You're just being sweet. I don't know. Take over the world?
That's all that's left.
That's all
really,
that's left, right? I don't know.
You're just trying to mostly get through this this crowdfunding campaign so we can get the book out, I think.
Jason Jeffries has an interesting question he wanted to ask about Zartana's character.
Yes.
What is one of Zartana's strangest attributes? Does she have any quirks about her that stand out?
That's a good question. You know, I mean, it's hard not to say that I sort of picture Zartana as me, and it's not always easy.
And you have a lot of strange quirks.
I have a lot of strange quirks.
She's, I would argue that she's made up of strange quirks.
Yes, but the problem is, as the creator-writer, and when I was looking at my vision of myself / Zartana in my head when I was writing it, she's kind of flawless because she's not actually Tara. And so things where Tara can't find the word she's trying to say and messes up and says the wrong word would never be something Zartana would do, because Zartana's far too smart for that. So I'm trying to think of what Zartana has that are flaws.
Well, I you would probably argue that she's kind of fearless, and you would say that you aren't. But I would argue that that's a huge component of who you are.
Oh, I don't feel very fearless.
I know.
I feel very afraid most of the time.
Yeah, but what they say something about courage, which is courage is not the absence of fear, but being able to continue on even though you are afraid.
I guess so.
So I guess that, yeah.
Thank you for that question.
Somebody wants to know if Jason, also, I think it's also Jason, wants to know if there's going to be an audiobook version.
Ooh, I don't know. Perhaps.
Right.
Yes, maybe. I mean, we could do all sorts of stuff.
Maybe something to accompany it, because I know part of what you love about it is the illustrations and the interactivity of it. But maybe just as a companion, we could record.
Yeah.
And
that would be really interesting.
You know, download an MP3 and play along.
But see, if I were going to do that, I would want to get like super detailed, and I want to like interview Romani people on stories, and that would be the companion. But I don't know. Maybe. Possibly.
You never know.
I'm totally open to furthering the world. I just don't. I'm just trying to get through the campaign at the moment and get the book printed.
Yeah, campaign first, Western Hemisphere later.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Otherwise, I'll just get too overwhelmed and I won't take action.
But then Nick Slayton, hi Nick.
Hi Nick.
Wants to know when you take over the world. I love how he says when and not if. Will you be a benevolent dictator?
Of course, I'm super benevolent.
Oh wait, she can see.
I can see you.
Wow, yeah, just because I'm behind you doesn't mean.
Wow,
you can't see
that was
me.
good. That was good.
I was clearly, I'm
You don't
going
think I'm
to be
benevolent?
executed later.
Yes, yes.
Now here's another question.
Yes. Do we need to comment about any of these? Oh, people might want to know about the perks. Well, we can do that, and then we'll talk about the perks.
Yeah, well.
Well,
yeah.
you can click on the campaign too to see the perks. But I do have to say that besides the book, which is obviously a perk, and it's a really cool copy. It's a limited run copy that's going to be signed and numbered, and then it will also be hand assembled. So it's going to be sort of a one-of-a-kind collector's edition for this particular IndieGoGo campaign. So I just want to let you guys know that this is a really nice, high-quality version of the book. And then, so you can get a copy of the book as part of the campaign perk. And then one of my favorite perks is one that's called Sharing, the Sharing Spirit. And you get a copy of the book for yourself, but you also get a copy of the book for a friend. And a portion of your contribution goes to contributing a copy to go to a local charity. Because I thought that would be nice to give back to some of the schools and some of the kids groups and some of the local women's shelters to have books for their libraries. So that's a perk that I'm particularly happy with, and several people have already donated at that level, and it really means a lot to me. So thank you. And then the highest level contribution. Oh, you can also get art from the book. That's a limited run version that's going to be signed by Peter of the Vardo. But then at the highest level, Rob Pryor, who's a world-famous ambidextrous artist, so he draws with both hands simultaneously. You can watch videos of him online. It's insane. He's actually of Hungarian descent, and he does huge gallery shows and everything all over the world. He is contributing a ZARTANA-inspired, one-of-a-kind. Or why are you laughing?
I just don't want other questions. Okay, keep going about Rob.
One-of-a-kind ZARTANA-inspired piece of artwork for the highest contributor. So that's very, very exciting. So yes, more questions.
So one question, have you ever been pulled over by a cop?
Yes, Yuri was in the car with me. And I burst into tears.
You know what?
It doesn't get me out of a speeding ticket, though.
Right, yeah, it doesn't always work, but I'm sure it works better. I've never gotten out of anything.
But to be fair, it was kind of a speed trap. It was when we were actually in Michigan. I grew up in Michigan. I went to high school in Michigan. And we were driving north because I was going to take him up to Mackinac Island, which is an amazing island that's filled with fudge and no cars. And
Mackinac Island, a place filled with fudge.
It's true, though.
You should be on the tourist
anyone
board.
that knows that I'm not lying. I mean, it's totally true. But anyway,
no cars, but plenty of fudge.
It's my only speeding ticket, the only time I've ever been pulled over by a cop. And we were driving, and we were talking and laughing in the car ride up, and I was driving. And we got to a place, and I forget where it was, but there was a big curve in the highway and a big billboard. And I started to joke about the billboard, and I missed that there was a sign where the speed limit had reduced from 75 drastically from 75 to 50. And I just missed it because I was joking about the thing, and I turned to look at him, and I should have been paying attention, but I wasn't. And literally right underneath the billboard, there was a cop in a car. So he immediately pulled out, and he pulled me over, and I was like, because I didn't know what happened. And I was like, but I was going the speed limit because I literally was going 75 miles an hour. And he was like, except it's a 50-mile-an-hour zone, which you never should tell the cop the speed you're going because that's already a big thing.
Always just say.
So then I was like, but I was doing what I was supposed to. And he felt bad. So he said I was going like 55 in a 50 or 53 in a 50. I still had to pay the ticket.
He fudged it a little bit.
He fudged it a little bit because he knew that I wasn't really trying to be reckless, but he totally had set up a speed trap. So that was my one and only time I got pulled over.
A couple of interesting questions.
Yes, interesting question.
One, why Romanis and not some other cultural group? What drew you to that culture?
It started mostly because I had this vision of, like I said, before I did my research, I just had this idea of a gypsy girl that was colorful and bright and the fire and things like that, but I didn't know anything about it. And once I got into it, the more research I did, the more I found that was the Romani people that I was picturing. And so that's how I sort of stumbled my way into Romani. It wasn't that I started going, I want to write a book about a Romani girl. It sort of, it happened to me, kind of. Thank you, though, for that question.
And then if you were introducing, this is another interesting question, if you were introducing ZARTANA, the character, to a friend in real life, how would you describe her?
She's vibrant and very intelligent, and she's fearless.
Okay.
Yes.
Also,
is there anything else? Because I know we're rounding up to the end of the...
Oh, that's true.
And we're having so much fun with you guys. Thank you for all the great questions, and thank you so much for your contributions. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that we were able to today to get her to 26% funded.
You guys.
Within the first within the first 24 hours,
Holy cow.
within the first 10 hours.
And that's with 35 backers, you guys. Thank you.
Is a huge deal in the crowdfunding world and bodes well for the rest of the campaign. So thank you.
Really quick, I just want to say, facts-wise, because a lot of people always ask this, it is a flexible funding campaign, and people want to know what happens if you don't make your goal. Well, what happens if I don't make my goal is I will do an extremely limited print run version. I will only make copies for the amount of people that need it from the crowdfunding campaign, which means there's not going to be any more. That's just, it's going to be this very, very tiny amount. If I make my campaign or above, not only am I able to print, a very small limited run, but it's the number of contributors. But I can, like I said, I'll be donating some to charity. I will be able to give copies to all the artists that worked on the book, as a thank you, a special thank you for all the hard work that they did. And
they're already paid, right? Those artists are
those artists have already been paid. Yes, I paid all my artists,
yeah.
But I was also going to say, and I may even be able to put copies up available on my website so that if you decide at a later point in time that you enjoyed the book so much and you want to get a copy or you want to gift a copy to your friend, there will be some of this first limited print run based on the number that I can make for the campaign that will be available. So I really am hoping to make the goal because that will cover printing costs. But I've already invested completely in this project. I've paid all the artists. And the printing costs are actually going to be less than the $8,000 I'm asking because it's a very interactive book. It's full color, and it's a hardcover book, and that already in and of itself is expensive. But the fact that it's interactive and I have all the elements that have to be inserted, and it's a whole other bee's ball of wax.
One Wendy McNeil.
Oh, yeah, Wendy.
She says it's just such a great party. So
Thank
glad
you.
I came.
And enjoy the Petrovich Blasting Company music.
Yes, please. One of the questions, I know you've touched on a little bit, but maybe you could go into more detail about the interactive side of the storybook. Also, cheers to Michigan. Jason's watching from mid-Michigan. And we're, you can say where the, that's right, not the only Michigander out there.
That's right, we've got lots of Michiganders. And my mom, Candace Platt, who edited the book for me, she's in Michigan too.
And where is it being printed?
And it's being printed in Michigan. It's being printed in Dexter at a place called Thompson Shore.
AKA my apartment. Just kidding, not my apartment. I'm not printing.
James is printing each book for us. Well, if we only get 2 contributors, which we haven't, we've got.
I mean, he has to do by hand. He has to copy by hand. He has to draw.
Yeah, I have a Gutenberg press. I have an actual Gutenberg press that I still run.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Talk about really quickly in the last few minutes we have about the interactive side of the.
Yes. So the interactive side, not on every single page, but on many of the pages, you are going to find little pockets where there either will be herb cards, recipe cards. There may be folded up instructions on things like how to make a skirt, how to fish with a spear, how to map by the stars, how to make perfume. Things like that will be folded up as instructions and inserted between the pages. And then there's also fun elements like some tarot cards that she uses to help her on her journey, and maps. She has a map of the stars, star guide, and she also has instructions on how to map by the stars. But then she also has a map of Europe. And so there's a lot of little elements that as you're opening the pages, it's going to feel like she just tucked items in as she was going based on the activities she was doing, or the recipe cards that her mom or her grandmother had given her, she sort of inserts in the pages, which is kind of the way that I like to save things. I tend to be a collector, and I like moments to be remembered by memories that are physical. I'm very tangible, and so I like that element that she might have tucked things into her book, and so as you're opening it, you're going to be seeing and finding those elements.
So one, one sort of final question that might be a tough one to answer.
Yes.
What is your favorite part of the book?
I think my favorite part of the book is the pictures. I mean, they're so beautiful. The artist did a really amazing job, and it was so exciting for me. I remember the first day I got the first piece of art back. It was a piece of art from Peter, and I was really sad because this piece of art actually didn't make it into the book. It's the one piece of art that didn't make it into the book, and it's the very first one that came in.
Later.
So maybe it'll be a bonus one. It's a picture of a bee because toward the beginning of the book, she's out and she sees a beehive and she collects honey so that she can eat the honey and use it for cooking. And she just draws, she sits and she draws a bee, and it's this beautiful image of a bee, and I love it so much.
So it's real.
Oh,
so thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining me.
We're rounding up to the end. Thank you for being so supportive. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. we've only gotten more and more viewers as it's gone on.
Thank you. And I'm sure some people are watching on YouTube as well and might watch later.
Right, exactly. Please feel free to pass the information along for the campaign to anybody you think might enjoy it. We're really excited about it, and we really hope to be able to
bring ZARTANA to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's fun perks, and thanks to the Petrovich Blasting Company for letting us play their music with permission.
Music. So go check them out on at their website, blastingcompany.com.
Yep, and then do please consider visiting the campaign and sharing it with other people, because I am but one, and I'd love to get this out to many, many people. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, friends of yours, family members that may enjoy it, that I don't have access to personally. So thank you for that.
Just so I can get you guys a final tally, we're currently at 27% with $2,196 on 36 backers.
That's huge. Thank you.
Wow. There we are.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna sign off at 6 o'clock. Oh, do you want to see it?
Well, no. What I'll do is I'll turn up the
Petrovich?
The Petrovich, and we'll dance, and you.
We'll dance it off.
We'll dance it out.
We'll dance it out. Thank you again, everybody, so much for tuning in, and thanks for your great questions. You know, you can always access me on Twitter at Platt, and this will be going for the whole month of October, so let's see where we can take ZARTANA. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. All the best to you guys, and thank you for helping bring ZARTANA to life.
It's time to dance.
You guys can dance at home, too.
I haven't danced since 1997.
I guess I should stop the broadcast. All right, bye, everybody.